The Jimbo Fisher Radio Show is brought to you by Capital Farm Credit, the largest agricultural lender in Texas. Capital Farm Credit. Together, we're better. It is the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit. We are at Rudy's 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. Wonderful to see everyone out here this evening. Thank you so much for being with us. If you're joining us behind the mic as well, check in. We'll let everyone know where you're checking in from. And even though there aren't two, Coach, who are not here, we definitely know that they are listening this evening.
They definitely are. And it's good. Say that shout out. Hope they're doing well and great to, always miss them and want them to be here, but always thinking about them.
Absolutely. That gets us started. It's
yes, sir.
Just two of the greatest people there. I love being able to say, Jimbo, that the win was efficient against ULM on Saturday.
Efficient means execution, and at the end of the day, that's what it all. I mean, everything you do for practice, for whatever film study, that's what you're trying to do. Execute what you do. And that's at the end of the day, that's what it's about. And we were consistently executing in all three phases, but very efficient offensively, runs, pass, and when we did, very few negative plays. You know what I'm saying? And as I say, if you stay ahead of the chains, or sometimes even, sometimes a 1 or 2 yard gain still doesn't set you back too much. You know what I'm saying? But it's just those negative plays or just penalties or things like that get you. And we have 1 or 2, but not too many. And and defensively, staying ahead there. Getting the second and long, getting the third and long. That's why you're so efficient. They were 1 for 12 and third down in those situations. And the kicking game helps win the field position battle. Yeah. And those things are all, at the end of the day, what was important in football 40 years ago still important now. Turnovers, big plays, third downs, red zones. I mean, the game's evolved in different ways, but the concepts of what you're trying to do situationally, as I call it, you got to be a situational master. Understand what's going on each and every play and what you're trying to accomplish. It's still the same.
On defense, 6 3-and-outs. On offense, 11 drives, 1 punt. And the only reason why it's 2 drives don't score is Jalen Henderson's in at the end, and it's the kneel down.
Yeah, exactly. He had a nice gain. We almost popped that when I come out there. Yeah, it was. And just and that's what I was excited about. When young guys get in the game, all right, how do you act? Because I always got to say, Coach, I want more playing time. Okay. Well, when you get your playing time, what do? You got to be ready for your moment. And those guys were. And offense and defense and the guys that came in on special team, they executed. We called the same plays. Kept the game plan aggressive. Still threw the ball, still tried to get in space, still bring blitzes. And those guys, because, listen, everybody says, well, you don't want to, well, listen, they practice all week long to maybe get 5 or 10 or 12 plays a game. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And that's their development time. You have to maximize that, and you have to see what they can do. And that's why I was very proud of the young guys who come in and still executed.
And that's you have so much respect for it just for what you said. They don't know if they're going to get in. And when they did, they were there. And I love what you said today to me. The efficiency and the execution leads to confidence.
Yeah, and then once you have confidence, and it gets what allows you to play well is to have trust in what you do and trust in yourself and have confidence in yourself. At the end of the day, it's what it's all about. Do I trust what's being called? Do I trust what I can do? And do I have confidence I can do it? And once you do, then the game becomes fun.
Yeah.
But think about this. Anything you do, like you sitting right here doing it, you trust it, you know what you do, you have confidence in what you do, so you like doing the show. Everybody does their job. If you have trust and confidence in your job, you're going to do it well, and you're going to progress. You're going to get better, and at the end of the day, is what it's about.
I learned it makes it a lot easier if you have Jace Laviolette here too, as well for baseball.
Yeah,
it was just two baseball guys talking before.
Yeah, that was a great conversation.
Show.
Man, what a player he is too. Now.
Oh, Jimbo, something he's special.
He is, and like I said too, you don't realize. And the game, like you talk about how football's evolved and how big guys are, how big the baseball guys are.
Yeah.
I mean, back, like I was a baseball, back the old 5'9" guys, those guys are gone. You're obsolete even in baseball, let alone in football or somewhere else. I mean, the size, like, you say, well, Derek Jeter, he's not a big guy. Yeah, he's 6'3".
Yes, he is.
I mean, you don't realize how big people are in baseball now and the size. And that's why they're throwing at 96, 98, 100, 102 and hitting it 450 feet and running and doing the things they do.
Well, I have joked that I'm not sure Jace's ball has landed from the SEC tournament because that's somewhere in the trees in Hoover, and he played Pepper with that center field wall in Stanford as well, but represented Team USA.
Yeah, I mean, you don't understand how good you have to be on Team USA, and the honor it is, the privilege it is, and the experience you get. And how much that will even help him this year.
Yeah.
And what he's going into. And like you say, that, and the ball doesn't fly at the Hoover Met. The Hoover Met, the ball does not. And I remember I lived in Birmingham. The ball did not fly out of there. The ball he hit there. Whew.
Yeah. Something special. I'm so glad that you guys got together.
Oh, it was great.
We've talked about one another. When we come back to the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit, we'll talk about some of the standouts from Saturday, and we will then, a little later on, Philip is back. So we have he's going to be up first with the question, and we'll preview.
It's only if he did his homework.
Oh, that's right. Did you? Yeah, we got the... Yeah.
But he said there's no homework, so we're going to have to talk to the teachers.
Right.
We're going to have to call his teachers and make sure he gets some homework.
That is exactly
what
right.
What are they doing over there?
And we'll preview Auburn as well. That's all in our hour with Jimbo Fisher. It's the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit from Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. This is Aggie football from Learfield. Howdy, Aggs. Andrew Monaco here, inviting you all to visit Costa Vida Fresh Mexican Grill. Baja-style Mexican, made from scratch daily, serving breakfast, tacos, lunch, and dinner. Aggie owned and operated by Holly in South College Station. This is the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. They have already been checking in. Olga has checked in from Melbourne, Australia. Howdy, Olga. El Campo, San Antonio, Flatonia, Alabama's checked in. Cape Canaveral's checked in. And Vicky and Choya are the ones, Wallings, that we were referring off the top.
Yeah, Vicky and Choya. I mean,
I miss seeing him in the back.
I miss him right there. And then, like I said, I'm glad hope he's listening and hope they know we're thinking of him. We love him. And
every single show, right?
Every show.
You ask every single show.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. Jimbo, some of the when I don't mean to single out people, but some just jumped out. It was so wonderful to see number 11 on defense, Deuce Harmon, what he has overcome. And to be there.
The amount of surgeries and what he's went through. People don't realize, man, when you have a surgery, okay, you start to come back. Then you get hurt again. I think he's had 3, maybe 4 that were just, most season-ending shoulders, and all kind of things. And for him to come back and played well. Just didn't play, played well and did a great job. And getting him back is huge and so happy for him. And just the perseverance and the mental toughness and the things you go through, you don't realize that, am I ever going to play again? And is it why me again? There's the mental side to this thing, and you wonder how guys get down, you get depressed, you get things going on, you play everything, and all of a sudden something gets hurt and it goes away. That's a big problem. For him to battle back, I'm so happy for him and glad to have him back.
And I love because there's so much more to maturity and experience than just what you're doing on the field and the yards that you gain or the tackles that you make. To see him, you can tell that he is loved as a teammate.
Oh, yeah. They're loved and respected. Mm-hmm. You can be loved, but then you're respected for what you've persevered through and what you made, and the sacrifices you've made to be on the field with your brother and your family. All the rehab, all those months, all those that when nobody was there, you were in the rehab, you were in there together by yourself. You and the trainer doing the things you do, and not always with the team, and they're traveling, and you're home, and you got to have great respect for those guys that battle back through this stuff.
Yeah. On that back end, Jacoby Matthews, I thought, played really, really well.
He did.
He's special too.
He's battling through, and like I say, missed some practices in camp, just nothing bad, but all of a sudden got back in the groove, and all of a sudden, like you say, you get a chance out there, and he jumps out. He is very gifted. He's a great young man, and if we're going to be the team we need to be and can be, he's going to have to be a big part of this.
I love seeing we've talked before about how special it is to play on this level as a freshman, but Dalton Brooks gets some run and really, really delivers.
What Dalton Brooks, all he's going to do is get better and better. There's not a guy, he loves ball, plays hard, and I'm going to tell you what, he'll hit you now. And he likes football. There's people who are physical, there's people who are violent and like it. He likes it, but he's such a classy guy, can cover, he can run. He's going to be a heck of a player. He just keeps progressing in what he does. And when this thing's over, I think he's going to play a huge role in things.
The beauty of that defense, whether it's Elijah Robinson on that D line, they do it by units. You get to do that with the linebackers as well. But I know a young guy like DJ Hicks, a young guy like Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy, those snaps.
See, you don't realize getting Dindy in there, because people forget he had a big knee injury coming out of high school in the All-Star game. Basically missed a year in spring. He was banged up again, and still you got to get your confidence back. And he really only had fall camp, and then he had a couple good scrimmages, and he's coming on. This guy eventually, for the years out, I think is going to be a really good player. He's a good player now. Don't get me wrong, but you got the experience ahead of him. You got McKinley, you got Isaiah, you got Shamar. You got Walter and some of those guys with, just a little more experience, but he's evolving, and before the thing's over, he's going to be one heck of a football player. And then, getting DJ Hicks, that big body and him learning every day, and as a true freshman and the things he does and all those guys, that group is evolving, and we're going to need them before it's over with.
That's the beauty of McKinley Jackson coming back, right?
Yeah, and that's the way it used to be. Mm-hmm. You don't realize, you're not having to learn on the job. you've already learned, and getting those guys back and giving these guys, they don't realize it now, but for our team, it's very valuable that, you don't have to make the mistakes in this big games. They'll evolve through it and be ready to play when they're ready.
Ja'Day Walker, huge game on
I've always
Saturday.
said this. You knew it was coming. It did not. Everybody said it didn't surprise me one bit. He's had scrimmages like this. He's had days like this. He's had, he just, just 3 experienced guys ahead and just getting into the groove and getting into the game. But listen, this guy's a real deal. I've said it from the get-go. He is, and not only from his play, his energy level. The energy he brings to the field and practice. Guys never know. He's that guy you walk in and he'll walk on the field and just, hey, or just, he brings energy. He brings energy to the room, and he makes that room. And Anais knows guys are leading it and doing it too, but he brings energy to that room that, keeps it going. Another body, another battery, as I say, that keeps juice in it. And playing-wise, that guy's big, strong, and fast and can catch football.
You have a lot of starters at wide receiver.
Yeah, you
don't
do,
you,
and you have to. And you're going to have to interchange them, move them around. And as I say, guys get banged up, bruised up. You don't have to miss a beat, and it really helps.
It gives you an opportunity for an Evan Stewart. You don't have to run him out there, right? Because
Exactly.
you talk about it's a 12-game season, and it takes its toll. So you get a chance. And Evan's right back out there. I loved on Tuesday. He ran a route. You really liked what he did, but I love the way you were able to converse with him, Jimbo, and just kind of tweak something.
He's at that point, and he's starting to really understand everything. But now the precision and the details. He's at that point. He's a very, very intelligent human being, and he understands conceptually what you're trying to say, and just trying to really get him to be very finite with his eye discipline and his routes and attacking points and sticking, because when you do that with great ability, that's where you can get true greatness. And he's smart enough to understand all that, all the detail. And so we're just picking and trying to, just refine him as much as we can.
I also love that they started the next rep, and Le'Veon Moss made a catch, and you told him you were going to bust his tail.
Oh. He about ran over me. I was on the side. So you can be careful. That's
just his size. We've talked about him.
You saw him healthy this week, and when he hits that thing now, he's a real deal. You see explosion, you see power, you see athleticism. And this guy, we got involved. We got to get him going and keep him healthy, because he can be a difference maker at tailback.
And look, for all 3 of them, the pass pro is important, right?
Oh,
to be able to receive the ball.
And like I say, Ruben's playing great. Amari's doing really good things and playing them. They're all doing really good. But, and you're going to need them all. But they all got the explosion, and they're special in their own way.
Crown, Bailey. Yeah. It's nice to have that depth in that room as well.
Yep.
Much more of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. When we return to Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station, is Aggie football from Learfield. Barker's Heating and Cooling is proud to be the official heating and cooling provider for Texas A&M Athletics, earning your seal of approval since 1974. A lot's changed since then, but our pride in Aggie football and our commitment to providing great service remains as strong as ever. And Barker's says, "Gig 'em, Aggies." We continue with the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credits. Let's see, we've got Brownswood checking in, Pflugerville, Katie, and Ray Cottrell from Milton, Florida is checking in.
Oh, Ray. Tell you what, boy, it was great to see him get a touchdown last week and play. And I'll tell you what, listen, he's going to be another one. You love everything about Ray. You talk about a guy who loves ball, works hard, great kid. I say kid, great young man. Going to be a really good, big, strong. He's going to be a really good guy, and you root for him. He's a guy you truly like, and like when he makes a mistake, it kills him. Not because he's for him, it kills him that he lets you down. You know what I'm saying? He is a really, really good person.
That Crestview, Milton, Escambia County, Pensacola is talent rich.
I'm going to tell you what, and every guy you get, I'm going to tell you what, tough. Really? Everybody I've ever gotten out of there, man, are competitive, tough, physical guys. And then back in the day now, when you go back in the 80s, late 80s, 90s, even 2000s, early and a little bit when I was at Florida, that area was as good as anywhere. You're going back to Emmitt Smith, Derek Brooks. You're talking about Escambia and all those areas. They won national championships. They were winning national championships. Mm-hmm. They weren't just winning state championships in that area. Now, you go back to Danny Wolf down in the Fort Walton areas, and Choctawhatchee and Milton and Escambia and Pensacola football, and just big tight end and Reggie. We played at Florida State. All whole crew from Mobile right there, which I kind of put in that same panhandle, all the way across that panhandle. Man, it was great football. Great football.
And you were absolutely battling because that was such a fertile recruiting ground.
Oh, it was. I mean, everybody, like when I coached at Auburn, we tried to go down to Florida State. You were trying to get in there. LSU, we used to go across and try to get it when I was there. And we're going back now. I mean, those kids in there are coached well, coached hard, tough kids, and football is very important to them. I mean, it is all over, but that's one of those areas, man, when you get them out there, I haven't had a dud yet. I mean, they've been real guys. I mean, competitive guys.
Yeah, it's just I love that area. Being in Florida, I just love the different areas and the different ways they play. Like South Florida had so much speed, and there was so much competition just in there, but all around the state.
I like Texas football. It's as good as anywhere in the country, and definitely. But you still got to go. You got to go pluck and pick guys around. Everybody comes here, so we got to go there.
They sure do come in. That's for sure. Jimbo, you were asked about Mark Naboo, who was in for Bryce Foster, and you're able to just. You know what I mean when I say slide Cam Dewberry. I mean, he's just – I love
him and Mark rotate at guard anyway. They've been like co-starters anyway.
Yeah.
We don't think of them as anything but – and like I said, even with Crown, I still think of him as a starter. I mean, he is really a good player.
Yeah.
And but him going into center and making the calls for a game, that's – people don't realize that's like your first game of quarterback.
Correct.
I mean, all the things you got to do, but just picks it up and goes and getting better and better.
He talks so much about picking Bryce Foster's brain during the game or during a practice, but then relying on Layden Robinson to his side. Like, he's another one who just is constantly learning, correct?
Oh, he learns. He understands. He's a great teammate and has tremendous work ethic. And tell you what, very intelligent young man, and learns and understands the big picture.
Okay, so as the father of a son who played center, they're the smartest guys on the line, right?
They are. They got to make all the calls. Everything starts with their calls. People don't realize. I mean, and they're not. All right, you're saying when you're seeing the line, they got to see the safeties. They got to see corners. They got to see safeties. Their declarations and how they set the blocking schemes up front are not just based off of down guys and backers. They're based off safeties and things at second level or third level. Excuse me.
Are you seeing that line gel?
Yeah, much more. And you're healthy. They're playing together. You're not in and out all the time. You're not, and the guys have all played. And the young guys now, here's the other part. The young guys are picking up faster because they can watch a guy in front of them do it right and then have a conversation with him when he comes over. You don't realize how much that helps. Not us just coaching him, but those guys coaching each other. I mean, that all matters.
Hunter Herb gets in. Strickland gets in. Ferraro gets in. Like, I love to be able to see that.
Oh, yeah. And
those snaps are valuable.
Eventually up front, you're going to need everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. We were talking about the size in baseball, the size in lines.
Oh,
we joked a couple years ago, right? Chuck Noll said, give me a 275 offensive lineman.
Oh, Lord.
They're small now, right? I mean, 275 small. Now it's 300
and the
or
ability
better.
to see vision and have quarterbacks see things. And, man, you're seeing in holes and windows sometimes because that's what people don't understand. And when you judge a quarterback sometimes and you're saying, well, man, that guy's wide open. He's sitting there. He should be. And you're looking from the side. You never would judge a film anyway, what a quarterback does till you watch it from the end zone view. But all of a sudden there's a 6'7" lineman who's pushed back and he's only 2 yards in front of him. It's like a billboard. You can't see him. Or there's somebody in your lane or guys. You don't realize how long those defensive guys are and the windows that you have to, like when you see a window, like I say, when you're looking in windows. Well, what happens when somebody's in your window?
Right.
I mean, the windows have shades sometimes. They pull them down or somebody's standing outside in them, and you don't realize. And it matters. That size, and there's an art to playing quarterback for finding the vision, understanding how to look through things, how to look around things. And with these big guys, it's tougher and tougher.
And you talk about that health. I just love seeing 60 Trey Zune healthy on that left tackle.
Man, and there's another guy who just plays and doesn't say 2 words and is smart. Man, he's smart. He's going to play. I think he's going to play a long time in the league. I really do. I think not only here, but I think he's going to play a long time because he has versatility, can play different spots, intelligent, and just gets it. That's
what you told us about Kenyon Green because you reminded us that you can only have so many offensive linemen next level.
Exactly right.
So to have that versatility, you can take up 2 roster spots.
Exactly right. And just somebody else, because guys have to be moved all the time. Matters.
Yeah. He's Jimbo Fisher. It's a Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit. Much more to come. Questions next. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. Texas Farm Bureau Insurance wants to provide a trip for 12 to the Ole Miss game on November 4th. And to register for the 12th Fan trip, visit 12thman.com/12thfan. Texas Farm Bureau Insurance is a proud corporate partner of Texas A&M Athletics. The Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit, rolls on from Rudy's Question Time and the debut of Phillip this season. It's the first this season. Howdy, Chef, by the way. Good to see you. And just, you were glad to see Phillip, and then here's the question. How's the defense going to stop Auburn's 215-plus rushing yards per game?
You know, I tell you what, you don't realize how much they get out of their quarterbacks. Their tailbacks are getting a lot of it, but their Ashford is, when they put him in, they have a special package. And last week, the starter, the kid from Michigan State,
Peyton Thornhill.
Peyton Thornhill ran for 127.
Yeah.
He had 127 yards rushing as a quarterback. And they use, it's just zone runs, but there's some design runs. Quarterback read runs on the edges, and then when Ashford's in there, they have a lot of really designed runs that are very hard to give you, because when you run the quarterback, you get up a guy. Your numbers change. You don't realize when the quarterback runs the football and design runs, that means you have a hat for a hat with a ball carrier, which, in other words, if the offense does what it's supposed to do, it's almost impossible. And defensively, you got to beat blocks. Because when a back runs it, no matter what they do, you can get an unblocked guy to the point eventually. Now, he may have to come from depth and these throws, and that's where the RPO game comes in. But the way they do it, it's very dangerous. And a lot of their yards, half or more, come from the quarterback, along with very good tailbacks and some speed sweeps. So it's going to be very challenging in the different looks and the things they do. And we're going to have to fit runs, and we're going to have to be patient, because the other part of their game is a big RPO game where they're trying to get you to come out and play the run and get one-on-one shots. And so they do a really good job that way, and it's going to be very challenging. We're going to have to win. But basically, I hate to say this, you got to win your one-on-one battles. Somebody's got to defeat blocks and blockers. What you say that, well, doesn't that always have to happen? It does, but not to the extent when you run a quarterback, because now the numbers even up.
They had a very experienced line last year. They left and used the transfer portal effectively, didn't they, for more experience?
I heard you say, he had us. We were the Green Bay Packers of the '60s and the Pittsburgh Steelers of the '70s, and and all the which we like to have a good team, but they just went to the portal and got them.
Yeah, they
went into the portal and got great players. I mean. And when you do that, you're getting experience. You're not even getting high school kids. You're getting guys like that. So they hit the portal up, 20-some, 30-some guys, something like that. And, a ton of their starters up front on the offensive line, receiver, tight end. Them guys are really good players. They got a couple guys coming back to quarterback, defensive players, defensive front guys, linebackers. The whole crew. Both starting linebackers.
Yes.
Are in it. The secondary guys. They did a really good job in that portal, and it's going to be very challenging.
The good news is there's no Tank Bigsby. The bad news is there's Jarquez Hunter.
Yeah, he's strong. He played us last year. He's physical, big, strong. And then when you add the quarterback runs to that, well, you got to respect him, and you think, okay, and you're trying to get an extra guy to him. Well, all of a sudden there's nobody on the quarterback, or you're one-on-one with even one-on-one with their quarterbacks are very tough.
Yeah. The last year's game was so odd, wasn't it, Jimbo?
It was a very odd game. Different things, different time, the way it was, the injuries where we were at that status at the time, and it was a very unique game.
Did that help Connor Wigman?
Well, it was the first true road game he had.
Yeah.
And the only one he's really had like that, and you got to go through those tough experiences. And anytime as I say, you get saddle time, good, bad, and different, but you learn from it, and obviously he has.
And that's what you have always raved about him is he's one of those guys, good enough's not good enough.
Yeah.
And he knew that he struggled, but he didn't do that after. He goes back to work. Like we always talk about, who's looking back in that mirror? I didn't do my job. He's another one who doesn't like to let up teammates.
He does. He understands how to compete. He understands how to persevere through things, and he holds himself very, very accountable and to a very high standard.
Yeah. That's not an easy, very, very well.
A lot of people say
That's not an easy.
Listen, a lot of people say that. Very few people do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
To hold themselves to a high standard. And be honest with themselves. You know what I'm saying? And not only to their standard of how they play, how they affect the guys around them to play. But that's what the great ones do, and they understand that. And he's learning that on a daily basis.
There are so many things that go into being a quarterback. That's one of them. If you don't want to do that, don't play quarterback.
Everybody said, all right, man, that guy can throw it. He's fast. Why isn't he playing? Well, if that's the only two, you understand how many qualities you have to be. Now, there's probably 20 or 25 different qualities that great players have had. But what you got, and nobody has them all. They have them all at different levels. But there's always a group of 8, 10, 12 of those things that they combine that makes them unique, that allows their style to work. But the other part of it is, not only do you have the arm talent, you have the leg, the athleticism, the ability to process information and make decisions. I don't care at the end of the day. You got to process what the heck's going on, whether you're running it, pulling it, checking it, throwing it, and can you hit what the heck you throw at? Are you accurate? People don't realize accuracy. It's like a gun when you're hunting. That's great. That's a great gun. If it ain't sighted in, what good is it? You know what I mean? He can't hit nothing, and that's the way quarterbacks are. And then then you got the ability of, they're competitive and tough and leadership and all. You do. But how do you affect the guys on your team? How do those I've had great guys that are strong in those qualities, but still don't affect anybody. And do they want to follow you? Do they want to play for you? I mean, but they respect those qualities of competitiveness, toughness, intelligence. Who do you respect in the world? If you need help, you go to somebody that knows the answer.
Right.
Or if you're in trouble, you better get you a tough friend who can get you out of trouble. All right? Tough guys and smart guys people respect. Quarterback, if you're not tough and physically tough, you ain't got to be a fighter. But, I mean, if you can't stand there and take shots and do the things you got to do and play punished and banged up, your teammates ain't respecting you. And if you're not smart enough to help them get things out of make decisions, you're not going to help. Then the effectiveness, your personality, and how you communicate with people and how you lead people. And there's so many different qualities that go into being a great quarterback. And everybody's got a little bit different spice to it.
Yeah.
But there's always 6, 8, 10 qualities that they combine to make themselves unique.
That decision has to be made from the moment he turns from the huddle to the line of scrimmage. It's not like he's got all day to do this.
Yeah, the vast amount of information a quarterback processes situationally, on time on the clock, the shot clock's running down. Here's the formation. Here's the front. Here's the coverage. Here's the second. Here's the blitz. What am I into? What am I doing? Where's the ball going? How am I going to process it? And then when the ball snaps, that all changes. It can all change with a rotation two things. And then, I equate it to, and then you got to be able to manage the gray area. Quarterbacking is managing the gray areas. Everything, and the way I put it up on the board, they don't always happen that way. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and sometimes the other team screws up, and that screw up can screw you up. I mean, you got to be able to understand where you're going, what you're doing, and that's why the intricacies of quarterback, man, you could go on and on and on and on. We could have a 10-hour session right here, make everybody fall asleep. What goes on a daily basis, and it changes and can change the next day. And then you want him to be, but you got to be consistent.
Right.
You want consistency out of him, and everything he sees can be different all the time. And then, man, you understand the mental strain and focus it takes to play that position and be great.
Yeah. Right.
That's why there's very few Tom Brady's, Peyton Mannings,
That's exactly
Brett Favre's of the world, Joe Elway, Joe Montana, Johnny Unitas's, Staubach's, the Aikmans, the Bradshaw. People have no idea. And then back in those days, you got your head knocked off.
There wasn't targeting back then.
No, it wasn't. And that's like these guys. It's great. They're playing forever and because of the money. But go take the punishment those dudes did.
Right.
Don't compare the numbers from today to back then.
The guys who were hitting
and think of what Dan Marino did. Dan Marino put up today's numbers back then.
Yes, exactly. He was that game changer.
He may be right. He made a statement the other day. If he played today, he could throw over 6,000 yards. I wouldn't bet against it.
No.
If you ever sat and watched him throw a football, it was utterly and the accuracy and the velocity and the consistency and the pure arm talent and the he was I know a lot of great NFL players during that time and guys I've coached with. They all say, listen, this guy was great, but just flat throwing the football and doing those things. Yeah, that guy he's on a different planet.
That release
Montana
was
called him the best one the other day.
Did he really?
Montana said, my best quote, they said, don't talk about the most accomplished. Mm-hmm. You talk about Brady, myself, and all that. He said, my best quarterback of all time and everything, just pure talent playing the position and processing on the field was Dan Marino. He said it the other day. Joe Montana did.
That's the highest praise
and
right there.
I'm a huge Montana guy, man.
Yeah. Who knew how to win, right?
Oh, my God.
He did what he had to do to win.
But big games and big moments, I may take. I'm a Montana guy.
Yeah, I'm with you.
That guy.
He lived
and for him to say it. But Marino's talent level was so unique, and then tough, and that's back when you got pounded.
Yeah, he reminds me of the basketball analogy. What Magic did to point guards is what Dan did to quarterbacks.
Remember, he threw for 5,000 yards and 48 touchdowns in 1984. Think about that. There's only been 7 guys to ever throw for 5,000 yards in a football season in the NFL.
Yeah, he's one.
It's unique. That list is very unique too. If you ever look it up.
I think that's what I'm doing during the break.
Look it up. Look it up and tell me the most unique name on there. There's a name on there you would never get.
That's what I'm doing. We're taking a break, by the way. It's the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit. Come on back. This is Aggie Football from Learfield. Rudy's is a proud sponsor of Aggie Football. Be sure to stop by your local Rudy's or Rudy's.com for some real Texas barbecue. Enjoy 100% oak smoked meats, delicious sides, and Rudy's signature sauce. It's the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show. It's presented by Capital Farm Credit. So we just went to Pro Football Reference.
I was wrong. There's 9 total guys.
Yeah, 9.
Only 9 different guys ever done it. You don't realize.
Yeah.
It's an interesting list.
It really is. Over 5,000 yards. Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
And then Brady and Breeze again. Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
Marino did it in 1984.
By far the youngest.
Matthew Stafford, Justin Herbert. And the one that you jumping out is Jameis Winston.
Jameis did too. Yeah, he had 30-some touchdowns that year and 5,000 yards. So, I mean, 9 different guys. That's not many guys ever thrown a football. Have thrown for 5,000 yards in an NFL season.
So the first over 5,000 would be Marino in 84.
The next guy is when? 2011. 11. Went from 84. 8? There's 8 guys? That's 8 guys.
08.
Oh, wait. Went from 84 to 08. Now think how much far. You're 24 years ahead. Where it was, how good he was.
That's the game changer, right?
And also, that was a touchdown record that Brady then broke. It was until he broke it in 11. It was 48 touchdowns. Then.
Yeah. And we were just
Let me
looking.
ask you this: who had the record before that?
Before Marino, my guess is always Johnny Unitas.
The record was 36.
By
George Blanda.
George Blanda.
When he played with Houston.
Wow.
Everybody knows him as the kicker at the end of his career, but George was an All-Pro quarterback first.
Yes, he was. Forget
about that.
Such a long career. And the closest to threaten was 81, Dan Fouts.
Now, the Eric Coryell and the yards. That was the glance post. Yeah.
That's some fun stuff.
Coach with the guy that was on those teams, Lionel James. Who played there in 84. The great, Lionel's passed away now, but the coach with me at Auburn back in the day was a great player. Him and Bo in the backfield together. And he had the all-purpose yardage deal till Marshall Faulk broke it. Punt return, kick return, yards running, and all that in 84. He had the NFL record in a season, and I believe then Marshall Faulk broke it.
85, Maryland plays Auburn. It would have been James Jackson in the
85?
Brents.
No, 83.
83?
That was Boomer Esiason.
That was Boomer, yeah.
Boomer Esiason and Bo and the whole crew. And that's when
Bobby
Maryland
Ross was there, yeah.
Now, I will say this. I'll give you a little bit of history here. 83, I'll say this for Auburn. Auburn got cheated out of a national championship. In 1983, they won the SEC. I'll give you a rule. They're number 3 in the country. They played 7 top 20 ranked teams. That's when Florida was loaded with Wilbur Marshall and James Neal and all James Jones and that whole crew, Wayne Peace. Yeah, they played Alabama, Georgia. See, Georgia was a 2-time. They went to 3 straight national championships. Herschel had just left. Tennessee was loaded. I mean, that whole schedule was they played Maryland non-conference, and they lost to Texas 20-7 the second game of the year. And Texas was undefeated that year in 83. Mm-hmm. And that year is when Nebraska had the great team with Rozier and that whole run, and they were undefeated, supposed to win the whole thing. All right, they're number 1. Texas is number 2. They're undefeated. They're playing Nebraska's playing Miami in the Orange Bowl. Mm-hmm. Texas is playing Georgia in the Cotton Bowl. Auburn's playing Michigan in the Sugar Bowl. And Illinois won the Big Ten that year with Tony Eason. And Brew was on that team. Coach Brewster was a tight end. Tim Brewster was a tight end on that team. And they're ranked 4th, and they get their eyeballs beat out in the Rose Bowl 45-9 by UCLA. All right. Texas is winning the game and cost them a national championship. Texas, all they got is 2 minutes to go, and they jumped Vince Dooley. He punted with just over 2 minutes to go in the game, down by less than a touchdown, and punted to Texas, and Texas fumbled the punt. And Georgia recovers, goes in and scores and wins the game like 14-12 or something like that. Miami and Nebraska, that's for the game of the century. Nebraska's got the team, but Miami's beating them. Nebraska scores late, goes for 2 and loses. Instead of kicking the field. If they kick it, they tie it and win the national championship. Auburn's number 3 and beat Michigan 9-7 in Sugar Bowl. So number 1 loses, number 2 loses, and you played 7 top 20 teams that year to win. If you're waking up, you go to bed thinking you're national champions.
Yeah.
What happened the next day, the AP poll moved Miami from number 5. That's when they won their national championship. Moved Miami from number 5 to number 1. Moved Nebraska to number 2. Left Auburn at 3. And moved them up, and they never won the national championship. That's when they had Bo Jackson, and they had a great team. They played 7 top 20 teams and beat Boomer. And that was Miami's first national championship.
Yeah.
I don't mean they shouldn't have got it,
but
theoretically,
that's
Miami should have won it.
Yeah, that's when they
Miami should have.
We didn't know
Auburn
that night who was going to
Auburn
be
should have won it.
Yeah.
And they did.
7.
And history.
Maryland was 7.
That was an interesting deal.
Maryland was ranked 7 going into that game.
Yeah, that was Boomer Esiason and the whole crew now.
Absolutely.
I also watched them. That was the year I was at Clemson. I watched them get beat up there. by William Perry and William Devane and all them guys. I was playing baseball there then. They were 9-1-1 in football that year, and they about killed Boomer.
Yeah,
they beat him like 55-21.
It was a disaster.
Had a great team that year.
Yeah, but they were very good that year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one more segment to go.
That's good history. We didn't talk about that.
That's awesome. This is my favorite.
That's college football history.
This is my favorite. We'll come back. Jimbo Fisher Radio Show presented by Capital Farm Credit. This is Aggie football from Learfield. Because Jimbo has a better mind than I do. I was thinking Brent Fullwood. It was Tommy Agee, Little Train James, and Bo Jackson in that game. Agee ran for 219. Little Train ran for 115, and Bo for 105, 35-23. Auburn beat Maryland.
Yeah,
but that's what Bobby was doing. Hey, you've got Auburn on Saturday. What do you want to see from this Aggie team on Saturdays? Step into SEC play.
We're going to have to be consistent. We're going to have to be physical. We're going to have urgency, and we got to be ready to play. I mean, like you said, stopping their running game, not only their backs, their quarterback run game, the things they do there, their RPO game. Tight end's very skilled. Big receiver Hooks is 6'5", 6'6". Fair and the other receiver can run and play. Backs can catch the ball. They got fast backs and hunting all those big guys. Defensively, interior guys are physical. Ends are heavy. Backers can run. A lot of twist games up stuff, a lot of blitz games. The nickel, I know they lost 0, the nickel, but 5 is a blitzer and a very physical guy. They got 4, who's a great corner, second team all-conference last year. Number 1's coming back. They're going to be really good. 2 safeties. They bracket coverage. Kickers are good. They're going to be ready to play. They've got a very good team. And we're going to have to play balanced on offense. We're going to have to be able to run the football. We got to make our big plays and protect our quarterback. And I think, too, convert touchdowns in the red zone.
Yeah.
And then some of those games, these big games like that, not getting filled. But you got to get points. But, man, the more touchdowns you get and not give them up. If they move it, you got to be strong in the red zone. They're going to make their plays. You got to be strong in the red zone, tight zone, not give up touchdowns. Try to get your advantage. Try to create some turnovers somewhere in the kicking game. You got to be sound and watch their fakes. And they're going to be they're a well-coached team with very good talent.
We'll see you on Saturday. Beat the hell out of Auburn, Jimbo.
Thank you.
You bet. Jimbo Fisher, head coach, Fighting Texas Aggies. We'll join you at 10 o'clock. It's our St. Joseph Health pregame show, and then the kick at 11 and foot to ball at 11:07. The Aggies and the Auburn Tigers. Kevin Menchow is our engineer here at Rudy's. Tony O'Neill is the producer of the Jimbo Fisher Radio Show, presented by Capital Farm Credit in our Learfield studios. Thanks to Jace Laviolette being here as well from baseball. For Jimbo Fisher, I'm Andrew Monaco. Thanks and gig 'em. This is Aggie football from Learfield.